I have a question from a viewer with screen name AL. I don't know if it's Al or just AL, but he has moved to the North Carolina area and wants to start raising livestock, and he was wondering, are there certain breeds that you would recommend for North Carolina, and was that a factor in any decisions you've made with the breeds of livestock that you have?
First of all, he's moving to the best place. That's a good question. So yes, North Carolina is pretty, it's cold temperate, you get a lot of rain, it's humid, and so there's where you need to think about what kind of livestock you're going to get, especially with sheep, because sheep are more bred and have lines that are more arid tolerant. So I, for sheep, wanted to get a humid tolerant breed that had that reputation, which was the St. Croix, but also from a farmer who had raised them in a similar climate, similar situation of humidity and even heat and cool. So I got them from Missouri, which is even better for me because it's super humid and it gets hotter in the summer and colder in the winter, and still that it being humid, that transfers well. So they're going to come to North Carolina, I think, and do even better because they have that humid piece where they can survive and thrive in that and fight off and live with parasites and be okay with them and do well. For the other breeds, like the Jersey, which is our cow choice, and we've crossed the Jersey with the American Milking Devon bull. So that breed is more meaty and dairy and worky, like a three-purpose thing. And so breeding that with a super concentrated milk cow then gives us an offspring that is more of a mix. Maybe doesn't give you as much milk, but is more hardy. Lot going on with Jerseys on the East Coast, you know, where water magically falls from the sky, and it's humid, so they've been thriving here for a long time. So that wasn't a big of an issue, but especially an issue for that. But for pigs, I haven't even thought about it. I just got kind of a more mild breed that grows well and grows fast, but maybe not mega fast. So that's why we went to Old Spots with them. And you kind of just end up going with what's available. I think even more important than breed is sourcing them from somebody who's going to farm like you, especially if you're going to farm like us, where it's 100% grass-fed, no antibiotics, no chemical dewormers or anything like that. That's our first priority, then breed.
Were there any considerations with chickens? And because I know you guys got some Icelandics, and
yeah,
which is like a more of a cold hardy.
Chickens. So chickens, they're beasts, man. They're beasts with feathers, so they're so hardy. I don't worry about chickens at all. You don't want to get like you don't want to get a warm tropical breed and try to raise it in North Carolina or Maine, God forbid. So you want a chicken that's got feathers on it if you're going to be in a cold spot. You do want to think about that. The Icelandic, they're hardy as all get out, and that was one of the things that attracted to me. They're super scrappy. They'll eat anything. But here again, our breeding program for our chickens is totally bizarre and out of this world. We want fat hens now. And why do we want fat hens? Like literally, like fat hens, big boned chickens. Because we've figured out a system where we run cows in a sheep net. We move the cows on, the sheep can go in that very net and not have to set up a new net. Sure, you have multiple nets set up at one time, but you're really only moving one. So cows are here, sheep are here, and then chickens. So we need a chicken, because we used to set up a chicken net every day and follow about, wait, what if a chicken can stay in a sheep net? Icelandic's definitely not gonna stay in that sheep net. They're gonna go right through, they're so scrappy. But if you can't afford feed and you want to feed 12 chickens on an acre, then go with the scrappy Icelandic, and you're just letting them totally free range, then that's probably a good choice. But if you want to do a system where the chickens are following behind the cows a few days and scratch the manure and eat the fly larvae and spread the manure for you, better get you some fat hens. And so we're gonna have a big boned rooster. That's a polite way to say fat. Big boned rooster, and then big bone hen. And we'll have them for our own breeding stock should we need it. But with chickens, they're so available, it's just easier just to get them from the hatchery. But for my heart and security, it's nice to have a rooster just in case we need to breed one day.
This question is from Kylie L. One, do you still use the Sheepshaw? And are you satisfied with the build of it? Would you change anything if you had to do it again? What are your final thoughts on it?
Good thought. So this is, we still do use it during the grazing season, which for us is mid-April through Christmas-ish. We got very lucky with this. I mean, I measured sheep, I estimated the height. I think the height is good. We did a good 8x8 size so that other people can easily build it. You just get 2x4s that are 8-foot length, minimal cuts. We got good supports here. The wheels have been amazing. We've got a good mineral system under there. It's easy to move and pull. If you're in a cold climate, we did this one year when we had them all outside all year. We put a plastic roofing on this just to give them a little bit of a windbreak. We rigged up some sort of metal hook here. We just had some things on the farm to hang a bucket if you're gonna need to feed them with buckets. And 2 water buckets was enough to feed five ewes in a day. Now we do our water system. I was talking to Rebecca, the only thing we would change, if we could, and we'll figure it out, is you've got to get under here and crawl under there to service your minerals. And we have up to 19 minerals at a time sometimes, minimum 16. Well, you got to get your bucket, you got to crawl under here. And Rebecca said, well, if we could get a way to hinge this, that would be good, because then you could hinge this roof up. You could prop it up with your pole, just like we do our chickshaw. Our chickshaw roof's hinged. So, but still having this support, that's going to be a little tricky. I think it can be done. I think there's something that could be done. Why didn't we put the minerals on the end, and then we could at least access this other here? Because we put our minerals on our axle, and the further we put our axle back, one, the more the minerals are exposed, but two, the further we put the axle back, the heavier it is. And the more you can put your weight on the center, so even the more it would be here, the lighter this would be to move. And we wanted our 11-year-old to be able to move it at the time, and he can, so that worked out good. And then you don't have a competition either. Some lambs, maybe they're picked on, can rest and be under shade in the back. Other lambs can be up front, and there's a little bit of a separation there.
All right, this question is from Ozarks Anna. How much additional pasture do you want to create from your forested area? And if you could just talk a little bit about the concept, like the Silvopasture concept you're trying to create. Sure. For viewers.
So I'm in that situation where the problem is I've got about 8-ish grazable acres, and we have this need for two dairy cows. We have this need for breeding. We have this need for all these sheep. And so we're in that situation where we don't have enough land to sustain those guys all year long. Like, you know, grow up grass for them and have them graze during the winter stockpile. So we do have to import feed. We have to import some hay for those guys to meet our family needs in growing our own food. So what do? Well, do you buy the $3.5 million, $4 million property that way, or do you buy the $2.5 million property that way? That's the only situation we're in. Only 2 neighbors, and those are kind of not even for sale. So what do? Well, you take what you have and do the best you can, and that means this, where we're standing, used to be like this dense forest. You couldn't even walk in here, really. No, you couldn't. So we created the Silvopasture things. Joel Salatin will say, pasture your forest, forest your pastures. Brilliant. Because what happened is we had this forest that we weren't able to use for anything. Now look at it. 30% trees you're wanting to go for, so I do need to thin out some more trees. But the animals love it. Grass still thrives. The animals love it because they can scratch on it. They can get under the shade. You don't have to have shade structures for them. It's just a natural how they would get shade in nature. And so the animals are happier, means they're more productive. And we've turned, instead, and this is a lot cheaper, even hiring a crew. Guys, yeah, sure, I have the animals come in and they help weed it down, and then the pigs till up the grass, sure, and that's all great and wonderful. And they get it ready so that you can actually walk in here and saw and turn it into wood chips, turn it into firewood for our fuel for our house. And sure, that's an investment, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper than going out and buying new land, especially if I wouldn't even be able to find it adjacent to me. And not counting the fuel that it is in heating our house and the wood chips that it is. Those end up serving as the carbonaceous diaper throughout the winter, do the deep bedding. I could maybe get up to about 12 acres of pasture, so I think I'll always be importing a little until I can dream big and make that big dream a reality and expand. But until then, don't get caught up in that, oh, if only, or if this and that. No, get caught up in maximizing what you have. And that might mean breaking a few rules. This is more than 20% grade. Bill Mollison, permaculture, he'd have you put it in trees. I also happen to think that with the animals and moving them every day and seeking our hearts, I don't like walnuts and apples as much as I like raw milk and pork and grass-fed lamb. And one thing is, I can buy organic apples. You can buy organic raw milk. Forget trying to get 100% grass-fed lamb. Organic pork, other than bacon and sausage, forget it. And if you could find it, it would be very expensive. So it's like, what's close to our heart? Okay, how can we make it work if this is steeper than 20%? Okay, let's just make sure we move the animals consistent, and you'll see it's turned out wonderful. We've got clovers coming up. We've got nice grasses coming up. The land is actually thriving. Is it as ideal? But no. But neither is moving or buying a new property to make it work.
If you had to guess, like, how many acres do you think you've added by doing this in grazing area, and how many more are you trying to get?
This would be 1.5. I would say this is 1.5 acres. I've got another 1.5, 2 I can claim. So let's say I'll get 3. So I'll probably grow my pasture amount to probably 30%.